In the darkest hours of American history, the Civil War persisted beyond expectations. By its conclusion, over 56,000 prisoners of war had perished in ill-suited prison camps. Plagued with malnutrition and disease, surviving POWs desperately boarded crowded steamboats for passage up the Mississippi and home. Everything they had survived for, family, wives, and children, waited for them there. Tragically, for the passengers aboard the Sultana, the dream of home was lost when the steamboat's boilers exploded, condemning over 1,600 souls to perish in fire and water. The largest maritime disaster in U.S. history. Sadly, what should have been headline news became a whisper and then a shadow in American history.
The Sultana had more deaths and more destruction of human life than most of the battles that you've heard of in the Civil War. Yet less than 2% of all Americans have ever even heard of it.
The Sultana story is probably one of the most incredible historical events in American history that nobody knows about.
When I first heard about it, it touched me, not just because of the Civil War connection, but just because such an important event was lost in history. I think it's a very important story to tell because of the prisoner of war story itself.
They survived the American Civil War. They survived Cahaba and Andersonville prison camps. The war was over and they were on their way home, and they were virtually murdered by their own forces, the Union command at Vicksburg, Mississippi.
The boat may have exploded because of a weak boiler, but the death that ensued of 1,800 souls occurred because of graft, corruption, greed on the part of the boat owners and captain, and the malfeasance and dereliction of duty of the Union officers who overloaded this boat.
People who are involved in history, who love history, who teach history, who learn history, have an obligation to know this story and to help other people learn about the Sultana.
Why a movie has not been made about this is beyond me. It has every element: the love story, conspiracy, the drama. You could not write a fictional account of a disaster that would be any more compelling than the true facts.
This is a story that you need to know as an American. This is a story that everyone needs to know. It should go down in the annals with the great battles because of the humanity that was lost and the hope that was lost at the end of the Civil War.
History remembers the famous and even the infamous, but history really doesn't remember the common man. And these were just common men going home after the war, and they just didn't make it.
So many of them were emaciated after months in prison, and many of them were burned and scalded, and they tried to get off, and they were fighting for the last scraps of lumber that they could find with the fire blossoming towards the sky. Men's faces lit up by those flames, trying to find their way home, because that's where they wanted to be. They were finally going to be home with their families. That's where they wanted to be.
Not only did history forget these men, but the nation forgot the men. And they deserved better from the nation and from history.
These are our own people. These were prisoners of war from, Andersonville and Cahaba, and I think they should be remembered.
These men that died deserve their place in history. Much like the people that lost their lives at Gettysburg and Appomattox and Shiloh.
This is actually the worst marine disaster in our country's history, and they deserve to be remembered. Because so many of them were lost, our memories are their only graves.
Those voices of the 1,800 or so who died and the 500 to 600 who survived still cry out through their descendants for recognition.
Sultana absolutely, positively needs to be commemorated and remembered, and it does need to be afforded its proper place in the history of the United States.